Well, I just caught up to Berserk and yeah. The thing about Berserk is, out of any anime I've watched, out of any manga I've read, out of any media I've consumed, Berserk has been the most hyped up out of anything. And it was completely worth it.
My nigga.
I remember when I first started it, I was a little apprehensive because the Black Swordsman Arc, they just throw you into the world and just say, figure it out yourself. Now, looking at it retrospectively, I appreciate the Black Swordsman Arc because when you get to the Golden Age arc, I'm gonna talk about the Golden Age arc in a minute, don't worry about it. But when you get to Golden Age, the whole time, there's this feeling of dread that keeps building up because you know it's not gonna end good. Even when it's a good moment, like a good character moment of like Guts and Griffith's friendship, it feels horrible because you know at the end of the day, Griffith hoes all these niggas. And you see the Band of the Hawk chilling, and the only thing that I can think while I'm reading it, it's insane, but I appreciate it because it shows you what to expect from the world of Berserk very early on, and it's because you know how dark it gets later on, that even in sections that feel mundane, there's still a sense of tension because you have an idea of what direction the story is headed in. Now, the Golden Age arc is considered by a lot of people to be Berserk's best arc. It's like a masterpiece, and I can see it. A lot of the character work in this arc, it's the best shit I've seen in manga. Even just the beginnings of us seeing Guts grow up and the type of shit that he had to go through and how his experiences shaped who he is as a person today. Specifically, the way that violence became a coping mechanism for Guts is super interesting to me. I've never seen that done in another character quite the way it's done with Guts. I've seen other characters that use violence as coping mechanisms, but it feels so real for Guts. As with other characters, it almost feels like a cartoony thing, even though it's serious. It's not like a lighthearted thing. Like, Garp from Vinland Saga comes to mind, if you've read Vinland Saga. Of this character who uses violence as a coping mechanism, but I've never seen it done with the grit and realism that is done with Guts' character. Like that panel of Guts as a baby holding the sword in the fetal position, that panel makes me tear up every time I see it. Because that panel alone is such a great representation of who Guts is as a person. And while throughout the story we do see Guts grow and change, that part of Guts is still the exact same. He's still that same little nigga holding on to the sword for dear life because it's all he has. And then Griffith, I love Griffith, but I hate Griffith, but I love Griffith, but I hate Griffith. Griffith is a horrible person. There's no arguing against that. He is one of the worst people that I've seen in fiction, but there's something so compelling about him. This is how I know I'm susceptible to that type of bullshit Griffith be on. Because if I was in the Berserk world, I would have been following right behind Griffith ass. I would have been part of the Band of the Hawk. I would have followed that nigga straight into hell. Because he just makes you believe him. Even though I know he's lying half the time. Or that he's manipulating people. But there's something about him that makes you believe in him. It's weird. It's almost like an admirable thing. How much conviction he has and how much he believes in himself. But at the same time, this nigga is horrible. I've never seen a nigga snake his homies harder than Griffith did, and I don't think I ever will for the rest of my life, because that shit was crazy. But what I like about Griffith's betrayal is that we see what leads him there, and it almost makes it sympathetic, simply because throughout the story we see Griffith's internal struggle with people dying for his cause, and his cause is selfish as shit. He just wants to be the king of a kingdom, not no special like I want to make the world a better place, nothing. He just wants to be a king. But throughout the story, so many people die for this cause, and we see this dynamic between Griffith and the Band of the Hawk and Guts and Casca, of like Griffith having these doubts about people dying for his dream. But every single time, the Band of the Hawk reaffirms Griffith. We see it a couple times where Casca tells him this and Guts tells him this. No, it's okay that people are gonna die for your dream. That's what they're here for, right? And so Griffith gets this inflated ego and this feeling that his dream is more important than the lives of these people. Or even more narcissistic, he starts to believe that these lives are supposed to be given for his dream. As if this is these people's ultimate purpose, is making Griffith realize his dream.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
It's the most insane, egotistical shit in the world. But you see how he gets there because everyone kept pumping him up. And that's what's kind of fucked about it and makes it more tragic. is that we see Guts and Casca go through this horrible tragedy, and the worst part about it is they partially caused it themselves. Those two were the main two people that Griffith trusted and that kept Griffith on the path that he was on, that ultimately ended in what it ended in. And just those three, Guts, Griffith, and Casca, I could spend days talking about those three. As a matter of fact, this whole video might just be me talking about those three, because that is the central part of Berserk that is the most interesting to me, is those three's dynamic. Casca, the way that she looks up to Griffith in this cult-like way, and how that manifests itself into sexual attraction, and how Griffith uses that to keep Casca under his thumb. It's so interesting because I've never seen sexuality as a theme used in the way that it is in Berserk, because sex is also used as a proxy for power struggles, which is really interesting and true to real life, but it's something that you don't see a lot in manga. The juxtapose of Guts and Casca's healthy relationship as opposed to the way that Griffith approaches sexual and romantic relationships and using them as a means to gain control and power is also another theme in Berserk that's super interesting to me. For example, Casca and Guts have their scene where and it's portrayed as this healthy, loving, intimate thing, but when we see Griffith engage in similar things, it's usually in moments where he feels the need to gain power. And it's not that the person across from him matters at all, or even that the sex itself matters. He just wants to regain his power, like when he forces himself on Princess Charlotte. It's all just because he felt powerless about Guts leaving and him not being able to stop him, so he has to go get his power back by preying on someone who's weak. And we see this start to come to a head once Griffith's out of commission and he can't do anything anymore. And he sees Guts and Casca engaging in this healthy relationship. And we see Guts and Casca engaging in this healthy relationship. But what Griffith sees is his power with both of them slipping. So he tries to force himself on Casca in an attempt to try to regain this power by regaining the control that he had over her. And then the way that Casca misinterprets this, at least I think she misinterprets it, and thinks that Griffith is just looking for comfort, is actually really sad, because her view of Griffith is so idealistic that she actually believes that Griffith would be the type of person to do something like that. And it kind of shows that none of these people know Griffith at all. And that whole section of the story is just sickening, because they're all being all nice to Griffith and feeling bad for him. This nigga's pure evil. Guts being nice to him, putting on his armor, Casca giving him hugs and shit. Man, kill this nigga. And I didn't even mention this, but the fact that Griffith's entire downfall comes from the fact that he couldn't handle losing that control. Griffith, if I'm being real, he's probably the most compelling character in fiction. Even to this day, with the chapter that we're up to, Griffith's still so... Who is this nigga?
Bro?
Right? And now, for Casca to be back in his grasp, and she trying to fight her way out that bitch. But I do want to see what that encounter is like when they finally meet again for the first time. Even though I don't even know how Casca's gonna be able to talk to this nigga. She can't even look at him. I just want to know what Griffith's intention is with this move, because ever since the Eclipse, everything that we've seen Griffith do has been emotionless, stay on the path, stick to the plan. And this is probably the first thing that we've seen him do since his rebirth that just feels so irrational. And obviously it has something to do with his connection to the Full Moon kid. Even just the shit with Guts and Casca and that kid alone, and what that kid represents for what Griffith took away from Guts and Casca.
Are you crying, bro? No, bro, I'm good, bro.
And now Griffith has corrupted it and taken control of it, even though he can't get full control of it. Something that was once only theirs. God, Berserk is so good. I could talk about this shit all day, but I gotta stop. I might have more Berserk videos coming in the future. I'm not sure. But if you want to see more Berserk videos, let me know by liking the video, subscribing to the channel. And yeah, man, I'm gone.
Damn, I can't forget about them late nights.